Domestic violence is much broader than that. And how I define domestic violence is a manifestation of sexism and racism that has really been a historic element in our culture here in the United States of America. Certainly it's alive and well in other countries across the globe as well. But it really is in every element of our culture, our society, of things we say and do, to a degree so much so that we're just like so conditioned by our culture that we don't even know that it's happening, or that we've said things that kind of continue to perpetuate it, you know, not unknowingly, or not ill-intended. For example, like you might read in the newspaper, this family was experiencing domestic violence. Well, how they phrase that, this family experiencing domestic violence, doesn't tell me what really went on.
Right.
It doesn't tell me who was the victim. It doesn't tell me who the perpetrator is. What it really does is discount the victim, and it really lets the offender off the hook. What we really need to be saying is that this man, Greg White, abused his partner, or wife, or whoever that victim is. In terms of, if we are going to hold someone accountable for their offense, we have to be saying things like that. The phrase plagued by domestic violence really kind of continues to perpetuate that problem, because it lets the offender off the hook and compromises the victim. There's many, many other things that we do in our culture. Say things like, well, he's the king of his castle. I mean, that phrase alone instills that somehow, because he's a man in our culture, he has power and privilege in a way that women do not. Do we ever hear the phrase, she's the king of her castle? No. No. We hear he is the king of his castle. When you look at things like oppression by a dominant group over an oppressed group, how we think about domestic violence is really through the lens of oppression, or an oppression model. So, what oppression model describes is who has earned power and privilege and who's oppressed. So, in our culture, very clearly, men are given privilege simply because they're men in a way that women are not, simply because of gender. If you look at communities of color or racism, people who are white, myself as an example, I am given unearned privilege simply because of my skin color. It's not afforded to communities of color simply based on skin color. If you look at classism, economic social status, if you look at ableism or ageism, all of those are classist, or what's the word I'm looking for? There's a group that has power and privilege, and then there's the group that does not. I mean, for many, many years, we've discriminated against handicapped people. It's only been in our generation where we've now seen you cannot build a building unless you have handicap access in all elements of the building. So that's how we think about domestic violence, that it is in every element and aspect of our culture, not just between people. So, some facts. 1 in 3 women will experience domestic violence in her lifetime. Women accounted for 85% of victimization by intimate partners in 2001. Women are 5 to 8 times more likely than men to be victimized by an intimate partner. What's even more startling is a report that has just come out from the New York State Office of Justice, or the Division of Criminal Justice Services here in New York. And I want to read you a few statistics that these are shocking. Domestic homicide has increased 7% in 2000 2008, while other homicide increased only 3%. And this is in 2008 from 2007. Intimate partner homicide increased by 25% in 2008, with 91 reported. This is only New York State. Counties outside New York City reported 45% increase, with 45 intimate partner homicides reporting. The number of male victims of intimate partner homicide increased from 14 in 2007 to 23 in 2008. And firearms were used in 24% of intimate partner homicides in 2008, a decrease from 2007 where 46% of intimate partner homicides involved a firearm. So all the work that we're doing to really stop domestic violence, the numbers are shocking, that we still continue to have an increase in 2008 over 2007 with incidents of domestic violence. Certainly there can be many reasons why this is happening. There could be more reporting occurring, but the fact that domestic violence is a huge, huge problem in this country, even beyond these statistics. So, the effects of living with an abuser. In terms of mental health, can cause depression, post-traumatic stress disorder, stress and anxiety, substance abuse, eating disorders, sleep disorders, physical health, abdominal and GI problems, GYN problems, STDs, HIV, physical disabilities, fatigue, chronic pain, severe headaches. So if you have a victim who's presenting to you or talking about ailments that she has, or maybe she's in an emergency room, are we considering, are these caused by domestic violence? Certainly, and maybe Faith will talk about, the numbers and numbers of victims who've gone to their private physicians, doctors, emergency rooms, or just sit in classes with these chronic ailments. Did anybody ask, are you experiencing domestic violence? And ask it in a way that will allow her to be safe and make a disclosure so that she can get the help she truly needs. Countless, countless victims have experienced those encounters with doctors in emergency rooms where they ask it in front of the perpetrator. Well, do you think she's going to say yes? What would happen if she did? Out in the parking lot could be a bad experience for her, you know? And maybe Faith will talk a little bit about that. Maybe Faith won't, I don't know. But what have we learned about men who batter? The begging question is always that, you know, what are we going to do to get men to stop their abuse of their intimate female partners? In the very early 70s was the start of the battered women's movement here in this country. In the mid-70s is when many shelters started opening up their doors here in our community. We just celebrated 30 years of the existence of Haven House. And at the same time, the question was, we have to deal with the real problem, and that is we have to deal with men who are battering their intimate female partners. Now that we have some ways to get victims safe, maybe we can start up these programs, like batterer programs, put some men in it, and that will give them some tools to stop being out of control and stop abusing their partners and those kinds of things. So batterer programs opened up in this country and started having men attend those programs. Some of them were 4 weeks long, some of them were 6 weeks long.